Do you like Durant? What is this? Oh God! You don't want these guys showing up on your doorstep in the middle of the night.
We need to look at Durant.
What in the unholy were they thinking when they designed this f***ing type? Really, when I see this, what I think of is reliable. Are you absolutely kidding me right now? Ice is so bad! I mean, this is outrageous. The Durant lobby. Why is it so bad? Oh my God. Why have they not done something about this shit? Oh my God. Hello and welcome to the Devious Diesel Pokemon Types tier list. We did the Hisuian forms last time. That was our first tier list. And this time we're going to rank the types here. This should be a relatively quick one.
Survival.
Although I do have a lot of things to say about each one. I think that a lot of these will end up being where you would expect them to be, but a few of them may surprise you. So with the tiering criteria that I use, we try to do a holistic mix of my personal preferences, competitive Pokemon considered, a playthrough considered, and also just sort of in general in a vacuum in Pokemon. That's also considered. So it may not be exactly self-explanatory. You might look at a few of these and be like, well, that doesn't make sense. And chances are, as you'll see in the video, chances are that one of those types is colored by my bias. And that's okay, because it's my tier list and I'm going to make it how I want it. All right, without further ado, let's get down to it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with normal on this one. Now, normal, I think, is a very interesting type. When we look at normal, a lot of people find it underwhelming because normal doesn't have any super effective interactions with another type. It is not strong against any one particular type. Now, if we look at Generation 2 onwards, of course, if we look at normal type, we have, so it's super effective against nothing, and it's not very effective against rock and steel. It also has no effect at all to ghost. It is weak to fighting, it doesn't resist anything, but it itself is immune to ghost. Normal, at first glance, really doesn't appear to have anything interesting about it. There's nothing that stands out really about it. What I like about normal is two things, really. Historically, the normal type has been used to sort of signify, like, mammalian Pokemon. Is that a word? Mammalian? Mammals. Mammal Pokemon. Birds are normal flying. You have Bidoof, which is just sort of a little furry mammal creature. Generally speaking, that is what they use the normal type for. The Route 1 rats or rodents, the Route 1 or the, typical like dog Pokemon, except, Mighty Enna and stuff. So those kind of Pokemon are always a normal type. But what I like about it is how you can incorporate normal to something that is not that typical sort of mammal idea, right? And of course, if you guys know anything about me, you know that I love Hisuian Zoroark. So that's a great example of a Pokemon where they took the normal component of that and they mixed it with ghost. And the thing about ghost normal, and I think I may have said this in another video, maybe the Hisuian tier list, is those two things shouldn't work with each other, right? Those two things should not really be able to coexist in the same Pokemon, but they still found a way to do it. And I think they did it in a great way, and it ends up being great. It's a great Pokemon. It has 3 immunities. I think that normal is really underrated and stands to gain a lot. And at the same time, you're usually not hindered by it much because at the very least, with a normal dual type, you gain a ghost immunity. A fighting weakness, true, but if your type is flying or bug or, I don't know, there's no bug normals. You can mitigate that, right? I think that a safe place for me to put normal is a solid B. I think that normal can have huge potential. I also really like a lot of the normal attacking moves. Extreme speed, hyper voice. You have Primarina, which turns hyper voice into a water move. Normal has a lot of interesting interactions after the fact. You know what I mean? Like, it's not normal itself that is impressive, but rather what normal can become. And what it can be applied to, how things can be applied to it. And that's why I find it really fascinating. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to grass. As most people would probably expect, grass is, well, it's not considered very good. I'm not a grass hater per se. I mean, there are great Pokemon I love, like Breloom, Hisuian Lilligant, both grass fighting types, ironically. I really love Sprigatito. I think that was, or the Sprigatito line, Meowscarada. is a very cool, very good, competitively viable Pokemon. And I really appreciate the things that they've tried to do with grass. And even Decidueye, I think, is a cool, even though it's kind of lackluster. And I'm talking about regular Decidueye, not Hisuian Decidueye. I think that there were things they tried to do, and the spore and the other powder moves are very good, and having an immunity to that is good. I think that in the case of something like Ludicolo, right? Ludicolo, I guess I should say. Mirror B theme intensifies. In the case of Ludicolo, having that grass water type is really interesting, almost in the sense of like normal. Grass can add a lot to the equation, but it has to be a very specific circumstance or combination. Like grass and electric is interesting, but the only two Pokemon that have it, which is Hisuian Electrode and Rotom like neither one of those are very good. So I think grass is really dependent on the Pokemon. I really can't give it anything higher than a C. And in fact, I'm actually going to put it in D, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't even know if I can put it in C. Not the worst by any means on this tier list, especially if we're considering, the competitive component of being immune to powders, or the catching component of the powders in a playthrough, stuff like that. So there is value there. It's just usually the value is found in something else about the grass type Pokemon, not the grass type itself. When we look at grass's type interactions, and it's a starter type, remember? So like, here we go. So, oh my God. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, it's so bad. Oh my God, it's so bad. Look at this. All right, so it's good against ground, rock, and water, which are all pretty good types, and they're all considered pretty decent defensively. Well, not rock, but ground and water are good types defensively, I'd say. And, you have water ground types that are only weak to grass. Usually those are bulky, so you're going to want a stab grass move. Oh, look at the Sylveon hoodies. Yeah, so, but the numbers don't lie here, man. It's not very effective against 7 types? That might be the worst in the game. Grass might have the most types. And we'll look into this, but I have to confirm this. Grass might have the worst offensive type matchups of any type out there. So that's, wow. Yeah, way worse than I thought. Okay. Honestly, I have to say F. I didn't even want to I wasn't prepared to give it an F. Oh my God, that's so bad. Oh, Jesus. Fire. Are you burning hot? Because I know I'm burning up in this hot ass room right now without the AC on. So fire. What do we have here? Well, fire is not only a good type offensively, but it's actually, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you this, but it's actually pretty good defensively. Fire resists... Oh, wow. This isn't updated. Oh, here we go. Fire resists 6 types, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think is the second most of any type. Steel, of course, has the most resistances. I'm sure you can imagine where it's going to go on the list. But fire is remarkably good. Better than you would think. Now, you think about fire as far as a playthrough is concerned, you think about it in terms of, it's not good against Brock or Roxanne, for example, as your starter type. But also think about the fact that in Hoenn, in Sinnoh, I can say for those games for sure, you don't really get very many fire types. They're a little bit balanced by the fact that there are not very many of them. So that's why picking a fire starter, especially in Fernape, and Blaziken's very good too, but especially in Fernape, is just really the right call in those games. So fire, and there are a lot of great fire types, a lot of great starters. As I said, Blaziken, Infernape, Emboard, and not so much. It's not horrible, but it's not that good. They didn't need a third firefighting type, lest we mention Incineroar. And then you have like a Alolan Marowak, like interesting ones. There are actually a lot of fire ghost types for some reason. Hisuian Typhlosion and Chandelure, I love both of. I love Alolan Marowak. A lot of really cool ones. And speaking of normal, you have Pyroar, which is that like mammal sort of idea, but on fire. So, hey, why not? I like fire. It's not by any means one of my favorite types. It has a lot of good moves, a lot of good signature moves, too. And then you have, oh, you know what? Another great one is, I think it's called Burn Up, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, yeah. So if it's a pure fire type, it will then become typeless. That's right. Burn Up, very interesting move. Yeah, fire has a lot of really good tools at its disposal. And again, just the pure defensive and being resistant to fairy is huge. Huge for fire. I would say that fire can't go any lower than A tier. Depending on who you ask, it probably can go in S. I just personally don't feel that connected to fire. Yeah, I really think, I mean, it is just so good. Now we have water, the water type. It's the third of the three starter types. You know, you would think it'd be relatively balanced around the fact that it's one of those, that you can get it pretty easily. And as we know, if you've ever watched an imported cheese tier list, you know that there are an abundance of just generic water Pokemon thrown around. I like to quote him when he said, you know, grass types are common and bad, water types are common and good, and fire types are rare and good. Well, that is true. However, water, I think, is a little bit underappreciated by some people. I'm going to do something possibly controversial. Water's a double S type tier. Okay. Now, let me substantiate that a little bit. Number one, I'm a Pisces. There is no number two. I'm just kidding. Water's great. I mean, water is so good. Water is such a good type that you can, first of all, it's one of the only types that I'm okay with having a Pokemon that is a mono water type. Milotic, for example, is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. And it's a mono water type, and it stands on its own 2 feet. You know, it's an excellent Pokemon, and it's a mono water type. You're only weak to grass and electric. You're only weak to 2 types. Let's go ahead over here to water. So if we look at this, this does not look like... It's funny that water, to some people at least, including myself, like, it has a really good reputation because, I mean, it doesn't look that impressive, right? But if you look at the offensive prowess of water, it's only resisted by water, grass, and dragon. It's only super effective against ground, rock, and fire, but it hits everything else neutrally, and nothing is immune to it. It's only weak to grass and electric, and it is resistant to steel, fire, water, and ice. And I would say that at least fire, water, and ice are pretty common attacking types. And steel, while it's not necessarily a common attacking type, it's something that it is really good to resist, because not that many things resist steel. Fire, steel itself, water. I think that might be it. So yeah, oh no, fighting as well. Unbelievably good. I mean, really, when I see this, what I think of is reliable. You know, water is reliable. And then, of course, we could look at the number of great water-type Pokemon. Suicune, the Mudkip line, of course, Milotic, Kyogre. I mean, come on! When we talk about water-type, we have to talk about what Pokemon are water-type. And that's where the beauty lies, I think. Yeah, we have so many good ones on here. We got Basculegion. Oh my god, Primarina, of course. And these are just all the mono ones. You know, Palafin, another mono water type that is very good, that doesn't really need a second type. Excellent. Tentacruel, Slowbro, come on, man. Starmie, Gyarados, whatever. Lapras, you know, even Lantern, water electric. Oh, water is so good, man. I love water. You could call me thirsty. Let's pretend that this is water and not iced tea.
Delicious.
It's the lifeblood of all living things, water. Both sentient and otherwise. It's very good. Double S tier. And I just love water. There are so many water Pokemon that I love. My favorite animal is an octopus. Ironically, Octillery is not even close to my favorite Pokemon, but I don't know. I've always been fascinated by sea creatures and sea-dwelling animals, amphibians and such. Really love it. I love water. Electric. Here we have a very interesting type. And by all metrics, I mean, just an absolute powerhouse, right? Electric is so interesting because it has very few interactions. Electric has very few interactions. Doesn't look like a whole lot going on here, right? So it's only super effective against flying and water. It's not very effective against grass, electric, and dragon. And ground is immune to it. It's weak to ground, but only ground. It resists flying, electric, and steel. So there's not really a whole lot to do here. Electric is one of those things that, again, we have there are so many types missing from this chart, which means it's hitting them neutrally. And the other thing, too, is that a lot of electric moves tend to come with a chance to paralyze. And they themselves cannot be paralyzed by those moves. So I think that alone is a huge upside, huge potential for it. You know, you have certain electric types with levitate, such as Rotom or Electros, two actually of my favorite Pokemon. When I say favorite, I just mean my overall A to S tiers. I mean, there are so many Pokemon, it's hard to really say. Not in my top 10 or anything, but I like them both quite a lot. You know, you have the levitating electric types, which means they have no weakness. Now, of course, as we know, getting hit neutrally can hurt. It can sometimes be the death of you if it's a strong enough mon, but I really think it's good. I don't know. It may get moved down to B. We're going to tentatively put it in A. Ice. Ice to meet you. Have an ice day. Have an nice ice day. No, that wasn't it. Wait, I messed the joke up. Ah! Ice. S tier. Obviously. Let's move on.
Ice Climbers!
Come on, guys. Ice is so fucking bad. Ice is so bad! Why is it so bad? Why have they not fucking done something about this shit? Oh my god. Oh, I hate it. I hate it! I hate it so much. Oh my god. And you know what? Oh, Jesus. It's so ugly to look at. I mean, okay, we cannot, and this is why they call it a glass cannon type, we cannot ignore being super effective against 4 types. That's very good. Flying, ground, grass, and dragon. So, I mean, grass, you don't need to be worried about being that good against. You know, dragon, there's not that many. You're not going to be seeing them that often, maybe in certain competitive formats, but it is helpful to have super effective coverage against those types, especially ground, which is only otherwise weak to 2 types. But other than that, I mean, oh my god, not very effective against steel, fire, water, and ice. You know, they added fire at a later date. They added fire starting in Generation 2. I would have imagined that, I think that what they were originally thinking was, well, ice melts into water, and water is good against fire, so maybe let's just have it be neutral. But no, it's not very effective against any of these 4 types, and it's weak to fighting rock, steel, and fire. Making matters worse, and I'm sure you all know this, it only resists itself. Why? Why would that ever be? Oh my god, not that bug needs a nerf, but like, make it resist, I don't know, bug or something. Oh, it's so bad. I cannot stand ice, man. And the thing that breaks me up about it, right? Alolan Ninetales is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Now, that's really a double S Pokemon in my book. I'm talking top 10 or 15. You know, Galarian Darmanitan, super cool concept, really good Pokemon. So you have so many Pokemon that are ice types that are good. But again, we're coming back to this idea that it's not the ice type that's making them that good. It's that they have a lot of, you know, they have a good ability, they have good moves, they have good stats. A lot of these, again, are built to be glass cannon Pokemon. Interesting, ice fire, you know, unique monotype in Darmanitan, Zen mode for Galar. Oh, good, it's our best friend Hisuian Avalugg.
I hate it. I hate this Pokemon. It's ugly and dumb and stupid. Why Avalugg? Why some nothing ice type that nobody likes, that nobody cares about? Nobody ever wanted to see this thing get a dual type. And then what do you give it? You give it rock. You give it a rock dual type. What in the world were you thinking?
Jesus, what a travesty. Anyway, a lot of good Pokemon, but not because they're ice types. You know what I mean? If you took the ice type and made it something else, they'd still be amazing Pokemon. Ice is super bad. Honestly, though, I kind of feel like it's better than grass because at least it's super effective against 4 types. I mean, grass is so bad. Oh my god. Ridiculous. Flying. Let's flap our wings and fly away with the flying type. So flying is a type that I used to really, I don't want to say dislike, but I just really didn't care at all for it. I didn't think it was cool. I didn't think it was good. I didn't really care about it thematically. A few key Pokemon changed my opinion on that. Gliscor, Staraptor, and Landorus. Oh, how could we forget? My best friend and compatriot. I'm sorry, no, I need a visual aid to demonstrate this. My best friend and compatriot, Togekiss. Kisses is going to stay here for the video.
I'm not sorry.
There you go, Kisses.
Okay, anyway, I didn't think flying was anything special until I found Pokemon of that type that I really loved, that I really connected with. You know, three of those four that I mentioned are in my top 15, 20 Pokemon of all time, and one of them is my literal favorite Pokemon of all time.
I'm not sorry.
So, flying type is super effective against fighting bug and grass. Only one of those is really that relevant. Occasionally the bug or grass weakness will come in play. It'll come in handy if you have like a dual type, like Ludicolo, for example. Only weak to bug and flying. Not very effective against rock, electric, and steel. Now, with rock and steel, you know, you'd be using something else. And electric is only weak to ground anyway. I don't know why you would be attacking an electric type with a flying type. So flying's got like very self-explanatory negative offensive traits. Like, you wouldn't be attacking these types with a flying type. And a lot of them, flying types, like, for example, Staraptor, gets close combat as a coverage option to take care of those pesky rock and steel types. I just want to say I love Staraptor so much. Yeah, I mean, it's really pretty simple, you know, and it resists these same three that it's good against, and it's weak to almost the same profile that it's not very effective against. And it's immune to ground. It's got an immunity, man. You never argue with an immunity. I really, truly like the flying type. You know, again, we have pure, half, and secondary types. Corviknight, another one of my favorites. I don't think that it's ever that... Oh, and everybody's favorite, Gyarados. Look, I don't want to flame anyone. I don't want to piss anyone off. I know people love Gyarados. I may not be a huge fan of Gyarados, but people love it. So yeah, I really truly enjoy flying. I think it's grown on me quite a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in high B. I think that it goes there. I don't know how high I can put it up here, but it's definitely going to be like top of B tier. Watch out for the creepy crawlies, because we've got the bug type. You know, it breaks my heart, right? Although I'm not really a fan of bugs IRL, I'm kind of really fascinated by the bug type. Let's think about it for a second. We have types such as Volcar, we have, you know, Scizor, we have some other really interesting ones like Shuckle. Now, I'm not saying that you would ever really want to use Shuckle, but Shuckle's really interesting, right? You know, you have a lot of really interesting Pokemon that are bug types that do have a lot going for them. More recently, we have the Paradox from the past, which is Slitherwing. Slitherwing, from what I understand, is pretty good. So, all right, we're looking at Generation 6 onwards. I mean, guys, what is this? What is going on here? Why would it be this bad? Why would Ghost resist it? Why would Fairy resist it? Oh my god, what is happening? What is happening? I'm taking crazy pills. Why is this happening? Why are you doing this? Game Freak. I mean, it's super effective against Grass, Psychic, Dark. What? All right. It being super effective against Dark is good. I would say that's the best application that Bug has offensively. Psychic, I mean, you would use a Dark type because they are immune to Psychic. So you would never use it for that. And Grass, you're going to use a Flying or a Fire type. You know what I mean? I mean, you would never really use Bug to do that. I don't really like changing the type chart much. I don't think that the type chart needs to be dramatically changed or anything, but I think that Fairy needs to be weak to Bug. I think that Bug needs to hit at least one Ghost neutrally. So make Fairy weak to it, make Ghost neutral, and then, you know, the other ones can stay. Like, why is Bug not effective against poison? Like, pesticides? I mean, I kind of get it thematically, but guys, it's bad enough as it is. Oh, it's just so terrible. And like they have sort of gone with from the very beginning that these are like the early game Pokemon that you catch, that they're kind of powerful early on, especially because nothing really resists them. And then you get into the later game where everything does. And it's like, well, you're not still using it. But what about the Pokemon you designed around it being a strong bug type, like Scizor or Volcar? Now, those two Pokemon sort of exist in their own vacuum because they're good on their own merits, but why can't being bug type be part of that. Ribombee? Ribombee's one of my favorite Pokemon. Like, it's pretty good, and it would be so much better if bug wasn't so bad. Quiver Dance, an amazing setup move. Bug Buzz, which is like the bug type psychic. Even in more recent generations, Pollen Puff. Pollen Puff is a really cool move. You can either choose to attack the opponent or heal your partner. It's a great move. I'm actually a Pollen Puff stan. I love the move Pollen Puff. I think that it's got 15 PP at a max of 24. It is immune, Bulletproof is immune to it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a super cool move, and it's not the only one. Struggle Bug. Struggle Bug is a great move. Struggle Bug is a guaranteed special attack reduction, and it does 50 damage, right? Yeah, 50 damage. Quiver Dance, as we well know, is an amazing setup move, especially on something like Ribombee or Vulcan. One each to attack, special defense, and speed. It's fantastic. But the problem is, bug type is just that bad. Now, I need to look at something real quick. We need to open up grass type. I think that they're close to the same, it's 7, right? So grass and bug are tied for the same exact number of resists, things that resist it. And oh my god, grass is worse than bug. I mean, okay, grass offensively, grass is better against better types. Grass is good, I should say, against better types, and it resists a couple of pretty good types itself. Bug resists okay types. I mean, resisting fighting is good. Resisting ground, it's one of the only 2 ground resists, which the other is grass. So they both have that, and that's very useful. Bug is weak to flying, rock, and fire. Oh man, I'm gonna have to say that although they're very close, grass is worse than bug. I can't believe that, man. And oh my god. You know, it's really disappointing. Originally, I was gonna have this be a little different, but upon doing some closer research, I mean, this is just atrocious. This is terrible. They're all bad. Ice, you could maybe make a case for being in D because it's got that glass cannon component, and if you consider the fact that it's good against the strong dragons, you know, quad effective against Garchomp and, you know, and the like. But mostly what you want is ice coverage, just like electric. Anyway, bug bad. The rock type. Dwayne the Rock Type Johnson. Dwayne the Rock Type Johnson. Not a fan. We're not a fan of Dwayne the Rock Type Johnson. Isn't that right, Togekiss? You don't like the rock type. So the rock type, in a similar vein of ice, is a type that you would rather have the coverage than be an actual rock type. Because if we look at the super effective qualities of rock, it's good against flying, bug, fire, and ice. And, you know, you're going to see at least one or maybe 2 of those types come up in a battle. It's good to have. It's not very effective against fighting, ground, and steel. Again, I don't really think that you would be attacking those with this type, so I can kind of get behind that. Defensively, weak to 5 types. I mean, you get absolutely flattened by fighting, by ground, by steel, by water, and grass. I mean, oh, it's just so bad. It's like, if rock wasn't weak to, like, water or grass or something, I guess it would have to be water, because grass is already so bad. You know, I would say it's actually pretty good, and it resists normal, flying, poison, and fire, which is like, I don't know. Okay, I guess. Why does it resist poison? It's just weird. I don't understand the poison type interactions, but we'll get there. But, as we know, there are some interesting rock moves, like, for example, everyone's favorite, Stealth Rock, which is one of the only stage hazards, in fact, I think the only stage hazard, which considers the type chart when doing damage upon switch in. Stealth Rock. And then we have, of course, Stone Edge. The thing about rock is that there's no good rock moves when you think of good as a metric of, like, you know, reliable, like your flamethrowers and whatnot. Stone Edge, 100 power, 80 accuracy. They call it Stone Mist for a reason. And, you know, I'm not the first person to tell you guys this, but it's terrible. I never put Stone Edge on a Pokemon in a playthrough. I mean, and in competitive, which is certainly not my strong suit, like, are people relying on this? Why? Well, because there's no better moves. Well, then why are you using rock type? Why are you even using it? I mean, you can't deal with flying with an electric type, bug with a flying type, fire with a water type, ice with a fighting type? What are you doing? Why? I mean, why is it so bad? And I just like the mineral types in a sense, like ground, steel, rock, like, and I'm one of the few people that's glad that there's a distinction between them. I think they all did deserve to be types. But man, it's just like rock is the one that I really don't have much love for. So, I don't think it's that controversial when I say that rock is very much a D tier, bottom of D tier. Now, when we look at rock versus ice, on the other hand, what are we feeling about that? How do we feel here? And I had an idea of how this tier list was going to go, which I said, but I knew it was going to change when I sat down. It's only resisted by 3. Ice is resisted by 4. It's weak to 5. Ice is only weak to 4, but it resists more. I would say that generally speaking, and the super effectiveness is good against about the same quality of types. Like ground is really good for ice, and fire is really good for rock, but and flying, you're both good against flying. I kind of feel like you could take them or leave them. You know what I mean? Like either way, you could interchangeably switch these between each other. I'm going to put ice above it because I just think ice is cooler and better. And there's a mineral type that I like a lot more. So we'll get there. We'll get there very soon, actually, because next up, the ground type. Are you grounded? Are you grounded in your recovery and your mental? The ground type. I don't think that it's reinventing the wheel when I say that ground is a fantastic type. Ground is where we have to talk about what makes the best offensive type. So if you value super effectiveness, super effective coverage, ground is one of the 2 best types. There are 2 types that are super effective against 5 other types, and we'll get to the other one shortly. But ground's super effective against 5, man. It's hard to argue with that. Look at these numbers. Look at these numbers right now and tell me that this isn't phenomenal. I mean, okay, poison, and again, I have no idea why that is. I don't, why? Why is that? Do you bury poison and it becomes not poisony? That's stupid. But rock, steel, fire, electric, I think that they all make perfect sense, especially electric, grounding things, as it were. Fire type, you put out a fire with dirt. Steel, earthquakes, flatten buildings or destroy them. And rock, if rocks are buried into the earth or they sort of work their way into the earth, they are pressurized and they create diamonds. I kind of almost feel like it would be the other way around, but, I get it. I get where it's coming from. Yeah. And I mean, look at this. It's only resisted by bug and grass. So that's really good. And sort of part of the trade-off there is that flying is immune to ground, and that makes perfect sense as well. But you have an immunity in electric, which is excellent. Now, you only resist poison and rock, which is very interesting. And you're weak to grass, water, and ice. That I think about it now, and I mean, it's obviously good. I don't want to say it's perfectly balanced, like it's better than it is not good, but it actually is pretty well balanced. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have a lot of resistances. It's mostly an offensive tool, or you're using it to pivot into electric. I think that now that I say it, I think that that's a very good way to describe the ground type. You are either pivoting into an electric move, or you're using it to attack super effectively. And if we look at the types of Pokemon that are ground type, okay, Groudon. I mean, do we even have to say more? Excadrill. Come on, man. We got winners here. We got Gliscor. We have Claydol. I'm just kidding. I like Claydol, but it's not good. Crocodile, man, insane. And you're going to see some of these guys on the monotype ground team for the Blueberry Elite Four. Check that out. That's coming out soon. May already be out by the time this comes out. We have Landorus. I mean, come on. You could stop at Groudon and Landorus and be like, that's that, and the ground type's already amazing. Ursaluna, one of my new favorite Pokemon. Toadscruel, very good, very cool, got cool energy. And the Donphan Paradox Pokemon, which is, usually it wouldn't be that they're both really good, but they're both really good. Ground fighting, this is our first ground fighting type, if I'm not mistaken. Well, yeah, we can check right here. It is our first ground fighting type. Yeah, it is. Really good stuff. And Garchomp, I mean, come on. You look at ground type and you think one thing. Winners, two things. Winners and hitters. Okay? These guys are hitters, man. You don't want these guys showing up on your doorstep in the middle of the night. Whiscash. Well, that's not very threatening, but let's pretend that Whiscash and Wormadam are not on here. Okay, moving on. Ground type. So where do we rank it? S tier. Come on, man. Ground type is unbelievably good. It's so good. There are only two. I'll give you a spoiler alert. There are only two types in double S tier. For me personally, ground is that good. It is good enough to go in double S. For me, it's just like, it's my second tier of favorite types. And you really can't argue against it being at the top. Steel. Do you have nerves of steel? Well, you might need them because I'm going to shock you with this tier placement. F tier.
Unsubscribed.
I'm kidding, obviously. Steel, I mean, what do we need to say about Steel even? Like, what really is there to say about Steel? What is Steel at the end of the day? Let's ponder. What makes a Steel-type Pokemon? I'm gonna stop saying ridiculous things now. Look at this. I mean, can you just look at this with me for a second? What is this? What in the unholy were they thinking when they designed this f***ing type? Are you absolutely kidding me right now? I mean, this is outrageous. And an immunity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 1 immunity. 10 resistances, 1 immunity. Only 3 weaknesses. Now, you know, offensively, it's not really anything special. Besides being good against Fairy, you know, Ice and Rock, that's not really going to be why you're using Steel as an attacking type. And most people would argue you wouldn't use Steel as an attacking type. However, I would argue that, you know, if you take these 4 out of the mix, and they're 4 good types, Steel's actually very good at dealing neutral damage, or in a few rare cases, super effective damage. I really think that offensively, it is nothing to complain about. It's not really designed to be offensive, and we all know that. But defensively, I mean, just come on. Look at this. Just, I mean, it's almost offensive. It's offensive how defensive this Pokemon type is.
Congratulations!
Yeah, I know, I'm hilarious. You subscribe for a reason, obviously. Yeah, I mean, the Steel type, it's just so unreal, man. I love it. I mean, I love the Steel type. I think it's so cool. There are so many cool Steel type Pokemon. Klinklang and Meltan Melmetal. 2 things I love, gears and hexagons. My buddy Jay would get it.
My buddy Jay would get it.
Probably nobody else in the world would. You know, Galarian Meowth and Berserker is even really cool. Copperajah, from what I understand, is not bad. Orthworm is super cool. It's got that ground immunity ability. Steel's one of these types that it's the opposite of the kind we described earlier, where they're good. The Pokemon are good, but not because of the type. The Pokemon is always, I can't think of a single instance where a Pokemon is made worse by the Steel type. I can't think of one. If you can think of one, type it down there in the comments below. And when I say made worse by it, I mean like dramatically worse, like the way grass affects and bug affects certain Pokemon. I mean, Skarmory. Spoiler alert, Skarmory was a big problem for me recently. Steelix, Skarmory, Mawile, Metagross, Jirachi, Dialga, Cobalion, one of my all-time favorites. Aegislash. Love Aegislash, man. Super cool. Super cool Pokemon. Goodra, Hisuian, one of my favorites again. I have so many favorite Pokemon that are Steel type. Goldango. Oh my god, they're so good. But you know what? Not Scizor, Magnezone. They're not prohibitively good. You know what I mean? I mean, oh, Empoleon. Oh, Empoleon, I love it so much. I love Water Steel. Such a cool type combination. So cool. I love almost every Pokemon on this list. I even love Durant. I love Durant. Do you like Durant? We need to look at Durant. We need to do some field research here. Some opposition research on Durant. The Durant lobby. Don't tell me that you look at this Pokemon and you're not just filled with confidence and joy about this children's game you're playing. Look at this little shiny bastard. He's excellent. Don't talk about my son that way. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't remember where I am right now. Yeah, Steel's a great type, man. I love it. I love it to death. I don't really think there's anything that we could say about it that's, like, negative. These things are so weird. Pokestar Studios.
Pokestar Studios.
Yeah, so cool, man. So cool, so good. Steel's rocking up to the function with like a nice pair of Ray-Bans on. You know, it's just like the essence of cool. Cold metal, as it were. Steel, easy, S tier. Top of S. Again, there only can, I really think, be 2 for me in double S tier. Steel is that good that it should be double S tier. So I do the rare thing of making a double. Not everybody does S plus or double S. So when I do double S tier, usually what that means is like it's the best and I love it especially much, you know, like more than anything. So moving on, poison type. I'm poisoned by how weird the type interactions for poison are. That one wasn't very good. Please don't hold me to that. I'm embarrassed by it, and I'm still going to leave it in the video for posterity. So as you remember, steel was immune to poison. That must mean that poison's pretty good, right? It's got to be balanced. So steel's immune to it. That's how they're going to balance it, right? Makes sense. Toxic is a great move. One of the best status moves. Oh. 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 Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
It's terrible.
Poison's terrible. Oh, I'm sorry. We were looking at the wrong generation.
Game over.
Well, it's still not that good. Okay, when I got back into Pokemon in 11th grade and Black and White came out, so I had Pokemon Black, I guess. My friend Jeff explained to me, because playing Pokemon prior to that, I didn't really understand things, and my buddy Jeff explained it well to me. Poison is best used as a defensive type. Now, in this day and age, how good is that? What is that worth? I mean, at the time, there were a lot of really strong fighting types running around, so being resistant to them was good. But I mean, it's not that useful anymore. And two of the types that you're resistant to are bug and grass. Terrible. One of them is yourself, poison, which nobody uses as an attacking type, except for fairy, in which usually they're using steel anyway. You know, it's like, I feel like poison used to sort of have a niche, but it definitely doesn't anymore. And now it's like, what is it even doing? What is poison even doing? I mean, okay, picking up toxic spikes is good. Using toxic and not being able to miss ever is good, especially since they reined in toxic. So now a benefit of poison is, whereas Blissey and used to get toxic, like a lot of the generic stall Pokemon, nowadays they made it so that you really only can use toxic with poison Pokemon, with very few exceptions. So that's something. I mean, it does have that. Why is it not very effective against Ghost? Can you explain that to me? Why? Why are they even interacting with each other? Yeah. I mean, listen, there are some cool ones. I like the Nidos. I love Galarian Weezing. I think it's super cool. I love Crobat. Alolan Muck is cool. Oh, God, where's Overquill? You know what? So, all right, what I'll say about Poison is that it's not that good. But there are a surprising amount of Pokemon on this list that I love. Okay, let me just go down. So, Nido King and Queen, Galarian Slowbro, Alolan Muck, Galarian Weezing, Crobat, Pooper, Drapion, of course. And I'm just going to, spoiler alert, the 3 poison dark types I love. All 3 of them. Toxicroak, Dragalge, Toxapex, Salazzle. Jesus, I like a lot of these. Clodsire, of course. I don't mind the new legendaries and the new mythical. I think they're pretty cool. Tentacruel, of course. Not a big Gengar guy myself. Sneasler and Hisuian Sneasel. Oh my god! Roserade! One of my favorite Pokemon of all time is a poison type. But not because it's a poison type. Yeah, I mean, little bit surprising how many Pokemon I like are poison types. Okay, alright, so you know what? I can't believe I'm gonna do this, man. I'm gonna put poison in C tier. I can't believe that I'm doing that. But I have to. I have to because it's what's right and what's good in this world. I have to do it because I'm being told to by some extraterrestrial, extraordinary force is causing me to put poison in C tier.
Now, if you disagree with that tier placement, tell those gods, those extraordinary forces, to cause me to revoke this decision.
I'm not moving it. Shut up. All right, the fighting type. Fighting, we talked about ground, and now we're going to talk about the fighting type, which is the other type that is super effective against 5 types. Now, I would like to point out that the 5 types that fighting is super effective against are maybe not quite as good as the 5 that ground is super effective against. For example, normal is on here. Now, I think that that's important because normal should have 1 weakness. I agree with that. I don't really know how much I agree with it being fighting. I don't really think that there's any causality there. Like what? People who are trained to fight versus people who are not? But I thought normal was just for like mammals. Are we implying that we're beating dogs? So I never really understood the fighting normal type interaction there. But Rock, Steel, Ice, Dark, you know, not bad types. It is resisted by 5 types. So it is it's clearly not as good as ground. Ghost is also immune to fighting, which is very important. It's weak to Flying Psychic Fairy and resists Bug Rock Dark. So it's kind of one of these situations where it's like, yes, it is strong against 5 types, but it's not a ground 5 types. It's a fighting 5 types, which overall, not very good. Ground is just like, if you were to put them side by side, which we can do, it's just, this is the clear loser. By no means bad. I mean, we've got a lot of great fighting type moves. So we got close combat, right? Everybody likes to play it a little fast and loose with close combat. I respect it. I think that that's a respectable, thing that an upstanding citizen of this great country or another would do. Yeah, I mean, good. Drops your defense and special defense, but that's okay. What do we got? We got Aura Sphere. Now, here's one of the things about this and ground type. Neither one have more than, well, I don't know, 2 regular special type moves. And when I say regular, I mean like non-signature. Because there is like Sandsteer Storm or whatever it's called for Landorus, I guess, maybe. Yeah, I really wish there were more special moves for ground and fighting. I think then if fighting had more special moves than ground, I would consider that a little bump. I would consider that like a benefit, right? But like what? We have Mach Punch. It's a shame they got rid of Power Up Punch. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Mach Punch is priority, but we have, of course, one of my favorite moves of all time, literally one of my favorite moves of all time, Drain Punch. I love Drain Punch. I think it's super cool, super fun to use. Yeah, fantastic move. So fighting has a lot of really good moves, and there are like good Pokemon that are fighting type, fast, strong Pokemon. You like to have it as coverage, for when you need it. But I would say the fighting type overall is only a high C. I mean, in general, especially in a world where we now have Fairy. I can't justify putting fighting any higher than that. Part of the reason that they invented Fairy type was to put a check to all those fighting and Dragon, but fighting types that were running around that were super strong. They had to check that. They had to put it in its place. Psychic type. Am I getting a vision from the future? That's so Raven. It's the future. I can see. Future Sight is a bad move. The Psychic type is, well, I mean, it's not great, right? I mean, it can't be that good. Unfortunate. Like, okay, if Dark is immune to it, that's never a good start, right? It's only good against fighting and poison. So back before Fairy, being a Psychic type was good because being able to hit fighting types for super effective was really good. However, most Psychic type moves are special, and a lot of fighting type Pokemon tend to be on the physical side, so you don't really need to be a Psychic type. You can just hit it with Psychic coverage and with a Venomoth type, like one of those fake Psychic types that's not actually Psychic. And then Poison. Why is Psychic good against Poison? I don't understand it. Why do you do this to me, Game Freak? It's making my ADHD crazy. It's making my OCD crazy. I have so many blah, blah, blah letter things that are being put totally out of order by the fact that you have these insane type interactions that just drive me up a fucking wall. I hate it so much. I'm only being a little bit melodramatic when I say that, but let's be real. I'm melodramatic about everything.
Continue.
Yeah, Psychic, man, I don't know. I used to like it a lot more when I was a kid and there was no Fairy type, and Psychic sort of was the light type or like the space type or the, cosmic type. It did play a lot of roles thematically, and I respect that about it. We have, Galarian Ponyta or Galarian Rapidash, which is really good. Alakazam, which, it's kind of like a Gyarados situation there. I don't love it, but a lot of people do, and it is very good. Espeon, which I love. Wobbuffet, one of the most interesting Pokemon of all time, especially gimmick Pokemon of all time. I love that. The Deoxy, or however you would say that. Lake Trio, Cresselia is interesting. Not sure why it's not a Fairy type. Reuniclus, oh my god. Don't even get me started. You'll see what I mean soon. Yeah, a lot of really good Pokemon. Gardevoir is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Top 10, easily. Gallade is in my top 5, I think. Both love them both so much. But the Psychic type itself is not really what's sending them over the edge in terms of usability. Was a lot better. Was a lot better back in the day. Nowadays, Psychic is really not much of a benefit. It just isn't, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I'm not offended by Psychic by any means. I think that it's perfectly fine to just put it right about here. There are things done better to take care of the super effective types here. Let me start that whole thing over. There are other types that will much more easily do Psychic's job for it, offensively, and defensively, it's like, I don't want to call it a liability, but it's certainly not a benefit. We're getting close to the end, folks. Ghost type. Ooh, it's spooky. Are you afraid of ghosts? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not. The ghost type is... It's not bad. It's certainly not bad by any means. I think that Ghost is a really cool secondary type that you can have. What did they change? Oh yeah, the steel interaction. It's no longer resisted by steel, which is good, thank God. Yeah, I mean, Ghost is only super effective against Ghost itself and Psychic. Yeah, not very effective against Dark. Immune to normal, and normal is immune to it, which I have always found fascinating, and I agree with that. I think that makes sense having a dual immunity for those two types specifically. I really think that they could make Ghost a little bit better, and they could also balance it by making Bug super effective against Ghost or something and have Bug be a little better. Again, there are some very subtle changes I would make to the type chart, but, you know, overall, I'm mostly okay with it. Yeah, I mean, I did misspeak. You're immune to both normal and fighting, which is why Hisuian Zoroark is so good, because it has 3 immunities: normal, Ghost, and fighting. You know, you got Annihilate, Ghost fighting, which is... if I'm not mistaken, perfect coverage. Nothing resists both types. Yeah, I mean, it's excellent as a utility type, and for when you want those 2 immunities on your other good type, like Water. Water Ghost, great type. Basculegion and Jellicent. There's another one I'm forgetting it. You know, like Fire Ghost, there are 6 or 7 now Fire Ghost type Pokemon. They're all really good, and having that Ghost typing is just a little bit helpful. Frostlass, it gives you an immunity to your fighting weakness, which is good. So I would say that, like, usually it's good as like a pivoting tool, and, you know, just to make yourself a little bit better defensively with a couple of immunities. You're never gonna be really hitting anything that well offensively, but you can hit a lot of types neutrally. I mean, look, there's only 3 on here, and then you're immune, or normal is immune to you. So not considering those 3 types, there are a lot of other types on the type chart, and you can hit them all neutrally, which is good. Yeah, certainly not an offensive type by any means. I mean, I love Goldango. I love Aegislash. I love Dragapult. Love Ceruledge. I like Skeledirge a lot. Love Basculegion. Here we have another situation where it's like, it's not the Ghost type itself that I love, but I just happen to love a lot of Ghost type Pokemon. Lunala is really cool. I even think Golurk is cool. Love Jellicent. Hisuian Zoroark, my second favorite Pokemon of all time. Shedinja, very cool, very neat gimmick Pokemon. I think it's great. I'm a fan. I'm a stan. Yeah, Mimikyu, neat. I think that Ghost is great, and there really are not that many things that I'd change about it. Nothing that I find wholly offensive by it. I think for the 2 immunities alone, we have to go top of B tier. I don't really know how we do any lower than that. Pretty all around good. The Dark type. Are you afraid of the dark? Well, I just might be. Although you can't tell because it's so goddamn dark in my room all the time. So the Dark type used to be that Ghost Dark type Pokemon had no weaknesses, which is why Cynthia's Spiritomb is so bulky, because you could never hit it with anything super effectively. Nowadays, it's weak to Fairy, so that's not even true anymore. Steel used to resist Dark. Yeah, here it is. So, I mean, look, you're super effective against Ghost and Psychic. That's pretty good. I mean, those are good types to have super effective coverage against. But other than that, you know, you're not effective against Fighting Dark Fairy. So it's another one that resists itself. Fairy's, of course, very good. I don't really think that Dark needed to be weak to Fairy. I know that, or I should say that there is a theory that they did that because of Hydreigon. Hydreigon was so good that it needed to be quad weak to Fairy, not just, you know, because what other reason thematically would Dark be weak to Fairy? If anything, Fairies would be weak to Dark, I feel like. But, you know, I'm going to digress away from that and say that overall, and this is, I feel like, a common sentiment in the community, Dark is really good for hitting things neutrally. I'm not the first person to say that. This is a common idea between us PokeTubers. It's good to be immune to Psychic. It's good to be immune to those coverage moves on other Pokemon. For example, Alolan Ninetales, it gets extra sensory, so it's good to be immune to that. Yeah, I mean, Dark type, there's not an astounding number of these that I really love. I love regular Zoroark. I mean, it's certainly not double S tier like Hisuian, but I do love it. The Overquill, of course, any of the dark poison types. Sableye's neat. It's not good, but it's cool. I like it. Galarian Zigzagoon line, I love that. Even Houndoom. I think Houndoom's pretty cool. Weavile, cool. Honchkrow reminds me of my mom. My mom, rest in peace, she loved crows. Yeah, here's Hydreigon, man. Crazy. I wonder if that has anything on the page about the fairy type trivia. No, it's not really going to say anything about that. Yeah, the only pseudo-legendary to only have a single ability. You know why? Because it's Levitate. And this is really irritating to me because Levitate is one of those abilities that they do it thematically. They want a Pokemon to be a dual type, but not a flying type. So then they give it Levitate, right? But they don't give it any hidden abilities. Any Pokemon with Levitate, and I think that you'll notice this, if I'm not mistaken, they never have another hidden ability or other ability because it's supposed to be one of those things where it's thematically part of the Pokemon. Like if Hydreigon didn't levitate, it wouldn't be itself. Well, I think that that's really dumb. First of all, Paradox Hydreigon, Iron Smugulus, that thing flies and it's not a fly. Well, yeah, it is a flying type. Whatever. All this is to say, Dark type is good. There are some really good special attackers on there. A lot of really good Pokemon are Dark type. Tyranitar, of course. A lot of really good and really interesting Pokemon have been Dark type. Dark's also, in modern day, a good combination of physical and special. There are good physical Darks like Meowscarada or Urshifu or Crocodile. And then there's good special Darks like we have... Muck, Alolan Muck, Grimmsnarl. We have Malamar's physical. Hydreigon's usually special. It's a higher special stat. It kind of looks like more physical. Houndoom's a good special dark attacker. So I guess it does lean a little bit more physical. Dark, I think that Dark is very middle of the road, better than normal. Not as good as Flying. Flying has the immunity. Well, no, Dark's got... So what I'm finding here is anything with an immunity can't go lower than B. It just can't. It simply can't. Ghost has 2 immunities. Ghost may need to go up to A tier here. Yeah, that's probably how we need to do that. I'll let you know if I change my mind. The Dragon type. Dragon Tales. Waking the Dragon. Enter the Dragon Fly. That's a terrible game. Don't play it. If you're going to play a Spyro game, just play the first 3. Anyway, our friend Spyro's type, the Dragon type. So Dragon is good. Such a crazy looking type chart here. Only super effective against itself. Only not very effective against Steel. And Fairy is immune to it. So it's a 1-1-1, which is very unusual. Not usually the case. Perfect 1-1-1 here. Think that's kind of cool though. Dragon, Steel, Fairy. Now Dragon is weak to Ice, Dragon, and Fairy. And of course, as we all know, the Fairy type was really invented to balance out some of these insanely power-crept dragons like Hydreigon, Dragonite, Garchomp. And Fairy being immune to them is part of that. Now, I do think that makes sense. I think that it makes sense for a mythical, strong, brutish dragon to be sort of slain by like the light good energy of fairies and the the brutality of the dragon and the raw strength can't compare and can't even touch its sort of like serene beauty and joy. I get that thematically. Okay, it's turning the gears of themes in my head. The theming is good, people. It's very good. So being weak to ice, I guess I can kind of get. I don't really know if I know of any media specifically that refer to dragons being killed by the cold or ice, but, and usually there are elemental dragons that are weak to either weak to an element or they are that element and immune to it. I don't know. I don't really know where they got it from. I think that's why they did the whole resists fire, water, grass, electric, because it's immune to the other elements, but it is weak to only ice. If dragons weren't weak to ice, I would say that ice would be just an altogether just the worst type in the game. There are a lot of really good dragon Pokemon. It's the least common type, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It has the least number of Pokemon. Although quite a few now. Now that we've gotten into late stage Pokemon, you know, we've got quite a few. Cyclozar is an interesting dragon Pokemon that I've gotten an appreciation for recently. You'll see why soon, in a few months. Love Dragapult, like I said. Roaring Moon's cool. You know, Garchomp, of course. Rayquaza, of course. Latios, of course. Salamence, love it. Mega Altaria, my heart and soul. Please, Game Freak. Dragon Fairy type when? A normal one. And bring back Megas for good. God. Yeah, I mean, like it. I like Dragon type, you know? Hisuian Gudra, one of my favorites of all time. I think that in this day and age with fairies running around, Dragon really doesn't have as much of a presence or a use case, but you definitely cannot argue with the fact that it's very strong. Dragon types tend to be just very strong. You know, this is one where we have to, because of how limited the dragon type is, we have to consider the Pokemon that are dragon type. Now, in a vacuum, I will say that dragon is not that good of a type, especially offensively. If anything, it's better as a defensive type. But now with fairy, it's like, it's kind of a liability in a way. You're trading a fairy weakness that you can't hit back for, you know, you're resistant to fire, water, grass, electric, which is pretty good. I don't know about better than this, though. And those things all have immunities. So actually, I think by nature, dragon has to go below dark and flying. However, that's just because I value immunities quite a lot. And I will say that short of having an immunity, I think that we actually have to do some rearranging here. As a matter of fact, I think that this is probably more appropriate, right? Because we've got two really good types with immunities, one pretty good type with an immunity. And then after that, we have the type with a lot of good resistances. Then we have a type that's good offensively, pretty good defensively, only one weakness. And then we have normal. I think normal being right in the middle as a baseline is good. I like that there. Yeah, I think I feel better about this. I think I can sleep tonight knowing that this is how this went. You know, otherwise I might stay up all night and be pulling my hair out because I'm an insane person, of course. Well, there's only one type left. And if this was years ago, 10 or however many, 15, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We would have already stopped the tier list. So the fairy type, if you can't tell, I'm one. So is my BFF forever and ever and ever, Togekiss, my favorite Pokemon, as I've mentioned probably at least once. But I think only once, so this will make 2 times I've mentioned it, and certainly not more than that. So the fairy type is insane. I mean, it is insane. Now, I will say that, you know, we're going to look at this type chart together, right? It doesn't look that crazy, right? I mean, it's good against 3, I would say very good types. Fighting, which, and remember, before this, Fighting and Dragon were the best 2 types in Gen 5. So you also have to consider the history of Fairy and what it was brought in to counter. There wasn't a type chart change since 4 generations prior. So when Fairy came, it was like pretty unprecedented. I don't think anyone saw the type chart changing or like adding, especially adding a new type. I really don't think anyone saw that coming. So it really shook things up. Fighting, Dark, Dragon, all good types to be really good against. Nothing is immune to you. The only things that resist you are Poison and Steel. And this is when it was created. I know they had this in mind. They wanted to make 2 types that were mostly defensive oriented, give them one more offensive tool against Fairy because they didn't know what else to make Fairy weak to. And I respect that. I think that the reason why it's Poison and Steel, correct me if I'm wrong, they both represent mechanical components like motors, engines, the machinations of the modern world. And I think that the idea behind fairies in Game Freak's perspective is like they're thinking of them as like the nature fairies, like fairies that live in little forest cottages and stuff. So it's like the way of our world is inherently offensive to them or imposes on their way of life. So I can understand that. And fire makes a bit of sense too, because, you know, fires would burn down those little cottages in the forest or whatever, mushroom village that they live in. So I really do think that they hit it on the head with these, and Fairy being good against Fighting Dragon and Dark, which, if you think about it, are really like three different classes of like medieval warrior, or like I should say fantasy classes, if you will. You have like Dark, which are like, you know, like orcs or you know, like demon guys or something. You have Fighting, which are like barbarians or, you know, dark knights, or I should say not dark knights because we just said dark, but evil knights. And then you have dragons, you know, like the dragon type or lizard men or whatever. So it's like really Fairy was cut and dry, taken whole cloth from like a Dungeons and Dragons fairies sort of outlook on the type. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that it's very appropriate. It being weak to poison and steel, again, I think that makes sense. Resisting Fighting Bug and Dark. Why does it resist Bug? In fact, Bug should be good against it. Bug should be here. If Bug was good against Fairy, that itself would make it kind of relevant. I think that is one of the few type changes I would make, and I think it would be a really good one. I think it would be balanced. I think it's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, resisting Fighting in Dark, as you would imagine, and then instead of resisting Dragon, you're immune to it. So overall, I think a really well-balanced type, but the thing that makes Fairy so good is how strong the Pokemon are that have that type and when it came to be. So when the Fairy type came around, you know, it just happened to slide in at a good power level where it was primed to be the best type. I mean, when you invent a type to counter the two best types in the game, it's got to be the best. And they really did design them around that. Now, a great number of Pokemon were originally normal types and then became Fairy, such as the Clefairy line, the Togepi line, we'll get there, Snubbull and Granbull, etc. And then they invented new ones like Florges, Spritzee, Swirlix, Sylveon, of course, which I love. So that's kind of how they handled that. Oh, there it is. There's my best friend in the world that I've ever known. Why did they not put this Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet? Why did they not do it? Why is it like, why would you do this to me? I don't understand why you would do it. It's like Game Freak literally said, hey, my name, beep. Let's make this guy as angry as possible by not putting his favorite Pokemon in the whole world into Scarlet and Violet. I mean, of all the Pokemon, like why not this one? It's so good, but it's not offensively good. It's not ridiculously good. You know, 545 BST. It's just got really good special attack defense and good enough speed and HP. God, its normal defense is good too. This is really like the perfect Pokemon, honestly. A little slower than you might expect, but it's so good. I just love it so much. I can't stand how much I love it. Yeah, I mean, I love, if we look at this list, I love Clefable, the Clefable line. I mean, you know, not one of my favorites, but I really like it a lot. Snubbull, Granbull, super cool. I love Florges. I love Sylveon. Xerneas, cool. Comfey, neat, love it. Milcery and Alchemy, stupid, but in a cool way. Zacian, I'm more of a fan of Zamazenta, but still cool. Fido, Doxbun, hilarious. Iron Valiant, sick as hell. Screamtail, adorable. Tinkaton, not my favorite because it's kind of ugly, but super good. Enamorus, I think that's awesome. I think it's a great idea. You know, Galarian Weezing, like I said, love it. Gardevoir, love it. Mega Mawile, love it. Mega Altaria, adore it. Cottony, Whimsicott, Deden, love them. Klefki, hilarious. It's a key ring, god. Primarina, Ribombee, two of my favorites of all god time. The Tapu Quartet, adore them, love them. Tapu Bulu just got me to the end of Pokerogue, man. Oh my god, I love the fairy type so much. Even Pheasantipity, it's a strange Pokemon, but I love it. I love it. I love the fairy type. And this is the type that, like, you know, it sounds pretty aspy or whatever, but like if I was a Pokemon, I would be a fairy type. Probably a water fairy type, honestly. I don't think that anyone is going to be surprised when I say that fairy is the best and my favorite type of any Pokemon type there is. I really do feel comfortable looking at this and saying, you know, this is how I feel like the type chart looks for me. You know, you got fairy and water, unbelievably good. Steel and ground, also such. These are only higher because I like them more, personally. Fire, Ghost, Flying, all very, very solid types. You're getting really good options out of them. The B tier, all really good and have their own really good components. Like Dragon and Normal, yeah, maybe they're not great offensively, but they are good defensively. They offer good options defensively. You know, we get down into C tier and we have some some detriments here, but they're fine. And then we have D and F, and they're the 4 types that you would expect. I really am happy about this, man. I think this is great. Guys, I hope you enjoyed. You know, I try to do these things, like these shorter, less edited videos more often. We have the Morris video coming out soon. I just finished voiceover for that. So that should hopefully be out July 3rd or 4th. Yeah, well, it might be that weekend. It might be the weekend after July 4th, but either way, it will be soon. And I hope you guys have a great holiday, and I hope you enjoyed this. Please stay tuned for more. I'm going to try and put some more of these tier list videos out. I apologize that the Paper Mario videos have really not been keeping up. It's just been hard to juggle work, life, and then music and videos, but I had to really put most of my attention to the Amaris video. I have not forgotten about it, and I also pre-ordered Sonic Shadow Generations, so that'll be on its way too. And yeah, do me a favor, let me know in the comments, man. Like, what's your favorite type? What's your favorite type and why? And what's your favorite dual type? Is there a type that doesn't currently exist, or like, for example, Dragon Fairy that's only a mega that we don't have access to? Tell me all of it. I want to hear it all. What do you like about types? What don't you like about types? Do you disagree? Why? Tell me I'm an idiot for my type placement. Say, Devious Diesel, you idiot. Why would you ever put fighting in C tier? You know, there's an argument that it could be higher. But yeah, other than that, man, I love doing this stuff. Please like and subscribe, and I will be back shortly. Take it easy, guys.